Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Alice Rouse, author of this little book right here. We've got tonight, The Life and Times of That's Right. These other little books, where you can get all that down in that description. So go down, fiddle about, check it out, and give me a little thrill while you're down there. Don't we all like that, ladies? All right, and as always, I always will start being thankful so much of everybody that is part of this channel, who is subscribing, who is watching, who is just hanging out, who's talking, interacting, having a good time, creating friendships, meeting up. You guys are friggin' awesome. And I can't even tell you how much I really, really appreciate just the energy we have going on with this channel, because it truly is like no other. Most other rock and roll channels are people who just do a bunch of AI, rehash shit, and, they get the same old flock that follows that stuff. But we're so different. We're all so different, and I love it. And thank you guys so much for just truly the love and support you guys give me. It's the whole world. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, you guys. Awesomely, truly. And speaking of truly, I've truly been trying to get this episode out for a while. You guys can see I even, last minute yesterday, Saturday, I decided to go ahead and refilm this real quick because it just didn't have the right flow. But I found the flow. Ladies, how many times when we were younger did we say, oh, thank God for that flow? Nobody wants a rock star, baby. Except for a starfucker. And today we're going to talk about that. That's our subject for the day. This is about the difference, because a lot of people mistake a starfucker and a groupie. They think it's the same thing, and we are so far apart on the scale of rock groupies, backlunch betties, whatever. They're two totally different things. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about a few starfuckers that I've known that might be hanging out with someone that I used to know. Who knows? Things are going to come up. Because starfucker is a starfucker, and we see you a mile away. And speaking of a mile away, I'm just going to finish up this Bailey's. I started, when I filmed the last one. Like I said, it's just been a chaotic, and thank you guys for dealing with my black and white world. But all right, everybody, grab your Baileys, kick up your feet, and let's talk a little bit of cocktails and starfucker tales, okay? Cheers, big ears. Always gonna swallow that over Kipwinger any day. Except, oh my God, we got this one yesterday. Danny and I, we like to meet once a week and try a couple different things. We'll split things. We might have one drink all together. But we have this local Five Wives vodka. They are so badass. They're such an amazing company. They come out with 5 husbands every June of every year. That is hilarious. But they have these pre-mixed drinks, and it was a Huckleberry Smash, and I thought this is going to be good because, oh God, no, it tasted like Luden's cough drops, and that bubblegum candy or bubblegum cough syrup the doctor used to give us as kids? It was so gross. So fucking gross. I would swallow Kipwinger over that. In fact, Danny and I had that discussion, and it definitely was a Kipwinger moment. So, okay, but that's besides the point. So the point we're going to talk about today, like I said, a lot of society thinks that starfuckers and groupies are one and the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we know here they are two totally different ball games. One is not going to cross paths with the other. In rock and roll, we don't get mistaken. We can see who's who a mile away, right? But not always. Well, we'll approach that. And we're going to start off with the original starfucker that I met in the history of my little rock and roll fantasy. There was Cammy. We all know who she is. I call her Double Cam in the book because she has some big natural ones. She had a reduced to double D's. She had a reduction to double D's. But I didn't really catch it at the time that she was a starfucker. I didn't catch, what that was, because I thought, we're all just back here hanging out, having a good time. I didn't know these people existed. But she kind of really showed me what that was all about, actually. It was more like she started out with Boucher, hanging out with Boucher, kind of riding Boucher's coattails backstage. She was never really with anybody, not a roadie, and that's okay. You don't need to be, but nobody really even went out of their way to be like, hey, she's a cool chick. I'd love to fucking hang out with her, buy a drink, something, whatever. She just never, ever, ever, like, think about starfuckers. It's their whole agenda is started with selfish, greedy, the need to be validated, the need to be more than they are in their own world, their insecurities, whatever. It started in such a negative place that that's what it's going to give off when that starfucker's around. So when Cammy was around, people just, and she could be funny, she could carry on a conversation, but she was just so negative and so, she's one of those frenemies that gives you an underhanded compliment, but then follows it up by a fucking slam. She was so deflecting and so rude. Like when we were hanging out with Overkill, she's like, no, really, tell Blitz how old you are because I just said it was my birthday. Well, for the next 5 hours, I'm 17, but at 12:01 a.m., I am 18. And because she was trying to cock block. She was trying to hurt any chances of anybody else having a good time. It's like, and then come to find out years later, all of us groupies, we left Salt Lake City. Cammy was still here. Bochet was in LA. She left pretty early. I was in Seattle with Kristen. Danny was, LA, Florida, wherever she was during those times, So come to find out that after we had left, and this is, I only found out because I had let her come stay with me again. I don't know how we got back in contact, but we did. And she needed a place to live. And she was desperate. And I had a spare room. I was like, well, hey, come stay with me. Bitch had not changed. She had not changed. I had to get a court order, get out of... I said, you have a couple months till you can find a place. 6 months later, I was getting a court order to get her the fuck out of my house because she would talk shit about me like she hooked up with Oris. That was the only time I've ever seen her hook up with anybody was in 2012 with Oris. And I've known her since 1986. I knew her beginning in 1986, 87. So that was the only time ever. But after I kicked her out of my house, she moved in with this guy that she became romantic with. They became engaged. She dumped him. Now she's for the guy she's now married to. Third marriage, dude. But anyway, so he got in contact with me. He was like, is this true? This and this and that. Because he happened to see me on a group page for Speedway Cafe that we were all part of. And he's like, she talked so much shit about you. She said you were a liar. She's like, was she really engaged to Eric Carr? I was like, no, she's not engaged to Eric. She never even kissed him. They never dated, nothing. So that was Cammy. I mean, while we were gone, she would like talk about Overkill and how Blitz, it was her and Blitz that were hanging out. And he completely ignored me and all this stuff, and I was so desperate. Like, our stories would become her stories while none of us lived here. So when we came back, it just sent her world in crashing. She had a fucking meltdown. She flipped the fuck out. Oh yeah, she did give a blowjob to the drummer of, he started out with Dark Angel, but he's a Testament, Gene, in my living room one time. So those are the only two guys I ever saw her hook up with. And that was years and years later, 2012, right? But that was the first starfucker I really kind of encountered, She lied. She never knew anybody to get her backstage. She just always used me and Danny or Bochet or whoever. Her friend Charlotte was with Vinnie Vincent from Kiss, so she used him. She used Charlotte. She just used. And that's what starfuckers do. They bring the negative energy. They use people. They don't have a leg to stand on. No one wants to be in that energy. Because groupies, we give off positivity. We don't need to lie about anything. We don't need to deflect. We don't need to degrade anybody. We bring a different positive energy. We bring people, we bring a comfort to the guys that nobody else does on the road. So it's just, that was my first experience, and I learned the hard way what that was really like. And quite honestly, I didn't even really learn that lesson until 2012 when I let her move in with me. That's when I started to learn that, her kids would stop by and be like, oh yeah, she's talked about you and how, you just kind of hung around while she was with all these rock stars. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, like she would put me in her position of the stories, like we all know the Testament story with her. So that was just weird. And that's one kind of starfucker, the liar, the deflector, the underhanded, the frenemy. That was my first experience. So I was just, and like I said, they just are insecure motives. They're, starfuckers they'll be ugly and it begets negativity, and in rock and roll, we don't want that. We have enough, the rockers have enough to deal with out on the road. So by the time they come to your town, you want to give them something that they're giving everybody else, this momentary rush, this relaxation, this excitement, this fun, this kiss. That's what groupies bring. We don't bring. So before you know, want to believe in some movie that you can't be a groupie unless you're Muse and almost famous or from the LA, that's bullshit. More starfuckers in LA than there were anywhere. Now, the next one I was years later, and this is when the internet first started. Like, Groupie Central was the very first rock and roll message board, chat board, and stuff. So a lot of groupies kind of converged there, like Pamela DeBar's, Baby Buell. A lot of people did. And people were talking about like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, and I was chiming in my experiences. So this girl decides to message me. I was like, oh, hey, cool, whatever. She seemed nice. And this was around 2002. We all know what happened in 2002, right? But this is before then. So she and I just sort of started talking. She gave me her email. So we started emailing back and forth. She seemed like a really cool chick, right? John died. She's like, well, what do you know? You live in Vegas. She was like pushing about what was going on. She heard rumors, blah, blah, blah. Since I lived here, I knew the guys, what was going on. Like she was pushing, but I didn't really catch what that was at that moment in time. Because she was the type of starfucker that likes to glom onto people that she meets and tries to live their experiences with them. When in groupies, we know every experience is very, very different and it's your own. You cannot live anybody else's experience, not in life, not backstage, not in any way, shape, or form. And she was that person, like she had met someone before me because her mother passed away sadly and left her around $10 million, lots of jewelry, all this stuff. She spent the next 10 years and $10 million trying to fuck Robert Plant and John Sykes. Still hasn't happened. And the first person she glommed on was another groupie that would go out and see Robert Plant and an Asian girl, and they felt that negativity. They felt what was going on. Like Robert would be nice to her, but he would just kind of pass her by and stuff. And and she would just tell me, so I just think it was near misses, but she was just like, oh yeah, this Asian girl, because she said she knew Robert and I figured she could get me backstage. Should have been listening to those words, right? Should have known. Oh, she said she could get me here. She said she could get me. And, she had so much fun with Robert. I figured we'd have fun together with each other. But they both had their own motivations. They both had their own ulterior motives. Groupies don't have that. We're just hanging out with our tribe, right? But so they both had and it backfired in both their faces. They both went home dejected, sad, rejected, alone, and then years later, we met up and I'm like, hey, yeah, come out to Salt Lake. We'll go out. We'll hang out with Cy. I arranged with Cy that we were going to go out to the place. And just from the time she stepped off the plane, we decided to meet in Salt Lake, take a road trip, and go to LA. And just from the time, she was just like very much, it was just weird. She was like trying to feel out just different information. But by the time we got to Cy's, I wasn't feeling good the whole time. Cy and I were still kind of going through a lot of emotions because of John's passing. It was still pretty early. It was around 2003 at this point. And Cy and I were still going through whatever we were going through because of all that. And we were still very, very close because we stuck with that. And Starfuckers, they don't like that. When two people already have this bond, when they have this impenetrable friendship that and all these memories. And she always thinks the lowest and the worst of everybody. You know, when we went to Cy had a 2 bedroom, and I usually slept in Cy's second bedroom, which was his son's with Toby when he would come visit. But when I was there, I would sleep in the guest bedroom in his apartment on Hollywood Boulevard. By the Mexican place closer, not the Hollywood Boulevard, but the one closer to Sunset Strip and, all that one. But anyway, so when we got there, Cy and I were so close, and she was kind of, that we even got his neighbor to hang out so she wouldn't feel left out. And I remember kind of falling asleep on the couch one night because we'd smoked some just AK-47, knock me the fuck out indica, right? And I was kind of half asleep, but I wasn't really asleep. And I heard her start talking. She's like, well, I can't believe you're still friends with her. You know, I believe she brought the cocaine in that room. And she was just talking shit. And I was like, excuse me? But then, there was that bad energy that she brought because of the insecurity, because of she didn't feel left out. She felt insecure about how to act or what to say and stuff like that. And that's always going to be a big inhibitor if you're not comfortable in your own skin. But here she was using me to try and she kept asking Cy about Robert Plant. Robert Plant, was he going to be around? Could you get him in touch with Robert Plant? And then we kind of had a falling out. Then we became friends again and just sort of talked on the phone. And she moved in with this guy in LA. She moved out to LA, moved in with this guy she had met at NAM. Of course, all starfuckers go to NAM, right? Groupies don't pay to go to NAM. We are not deal with all that business bullshit. But so anyway, she kind of came around and moved in with him, and she became a really big drunk. Like, by this time, she had spent most of her mother's money. She was selling her grandmother's and mother's jewelry to make ends meet, because she just didn't want to go get a job. She hadn't worked in a decade. She didn't want to go get a job. Most starfuckers don't want to get a job because they want to have their lives supplemented by the star that they're trying to glom onto. So, and we had another falling out. I never said a bad word about her, never talked about her. She was in my rearview mirror. Totally history. Come do find out, because Cy Langston knows everybody in LA. Yeah, I see you, bitch. I see you. Think I wasn't going to hear all this? You're not part of the rock and roll family like I was. The only friend you have in LA, I introduced you to, and you had him try and friend request me a couple months ago? Fuck that. But anyway, she was talking shit, saying that I had said all this stuff about different rock stars that I never said. She was spreading rumors in LA because she was a fucking drunk, an angry, mean drunk on top of that. That's what she had ended up after 10 years of not being able to live the rock and roll lifestyle. It's like, give it up. If you haven't been with these two, give it up and move on to the next one. You're just obsessed with these two guys, which a lot of starfuckers will be obsessed with one or two guys. They're not going to go out and have an open mind like groupies do. We don't get obsessed with our rockers. We have relationships with them. Big, huge fucking difference, right? But yeah, so she was trying to talk shit about me around LA to Jonesy, to Steve Jones, to other people. Talk shit about me to a couple roadies that I knew. All got back to Cy. All got back to me. They don't love you like they love me. And I don't mean that bitchy. I mean that as a fact. You're not part of the fucking family. So, and that's what starfuckers do. They get angry, they get jealous, they get drunk, they talk shit. Just like Cammie, she told lies. So she had to spread rumors to make herself look better. And that's what a lot of starfuckers do. Especially the last one we're going to talk about. But yeah, and then starfuckers, they really don't think about things like that because, I had introduced her to this roadie friend of mine, Dirty, and he became her total lifeline. He's the one that would do whatever she wanted him to do, and Dirty would do that and give him a girl with long dark hair and blue eyes, and he's anybody's bitch. And I can't believe you would have the Courtney whip. Oh, did I say her name out loud? Oh, fuck you. I don't care. Anyway, I can't believe that you would be so whipped by her that you would do that. I don't want to see either of you anymore. You both participated in that star fucking behavior. No, thank you. And then another starfucker that we all heard about. This was the what do we call it? The naked video session heard round the world, and I talked to this girl. So there was a girl a few years back that befriended Dave Ellefson of Megadeth. Guys know who I'm talking about. She made him feel all googly oogly, and she lured him in to make her trust her. And I believe 100%. Oh, excuse me. She did this fucking intentionally, purposely, because this is what starfuckers do. They were having a video chat naked session, a little bit of happiness, happy endings type of stuff. But her, she conveniently removed her box from the scene. Like you cannot see her, but you can see Junior doing his thing. A married man who's cheating, a married rock star cheating on his wife. No big deal, right? Happens every day. But what she did is she filmed it. And then she said, well, a friend of mine got into my... Groupies are not going to film. First of all, we don't send nakeds. I sent my very first naked at 49 years old during the pandemic because the guy I was dating was in Poland. And even then, it was like a couple bend over shots. That was it. That was my job. I hate sending nakeds because I did men's magazines. You want to see me naked? There's a fucking magazine, or you fly me out. Get me into bed. We're not going to put anybody into a position where they may feel that they're vulnerable. Because that's not what groupies are there for. We're there to create, like I said, the goddess Flores. It's about nurturing a friendship, about sexual, about creativity, about the connection. That's what we're there for. We are those type of goddesses. But this girl, she was just a dirty starfucker. She just intended to film that. She released it and thought she would get a leg up around the world and become, Kim Kardashian got famous off this. Well, that's why they're called the Kardashians, and they're getting canceled because everybody's sick of this fucking bullshit, right? But so she thought she would get a leg up, and she ended up reaching out to me because I posted something on one of the things on Instagram. I posted a comment saying, you know what, I've been through this. I don't believe for 1 second this was an accident. We all have passcodes on our phones or biometrics or whatever. And when she had emailed me, and I was like, oh girl, I said, I'm so sorry. I've been through this. I know what you're going through because I've been through the tabloids. She was being dragged around on all kinds of different sites, maybe not tabloids, and she was from Europe, and she's like, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm talking to you right now. What I'm hearing you say, you did this on fucking purpose, bitch. You did this on purpose. You filmed him, you released it, you thought you'd get some clout. Where is she now? Faded into oblivion. Because what happens to negativity? Just like the Tower card in the tarot, anything built on negativity that is not meant to be, that is built on greed, lust, all the 7 deadly sins, it's going to crumble. And she crumbled. She was ostracized, as where most starfuckers are ostracized. And like I said, after talking to her, I know she did it on purpose. And that is the lowest of the low you can get when it comes to starfuckers. It's just so... Like, who does that? It's bad enough that you're luring this man. You're intentionally trying to lure somebody else's husband for your own nefarious reasons. Which leads me to the next one. Here we are, New York. Told you it was coming. Just because you're somebody's girlfriend does not mean you're not a starfucker. Because one thing starfuckers do, the one thing that they do, they see a vulnerability with someone and they know how to pounce on it, manipulate it, twist it, and turn it into their own. So sometimes they get through to the weakest man going through the hardest shit in his life, and he's insecure, he's weak. Oh yeah, starfuckers, they will lean in on that. And they don't care. They don't care what they destroy around you. They don't care if they're such horrible people that longtime crew members quit working for that band after 20 years because they hate who you've made that man into. Because one thing groupies do, and I say this a million times, we talk about how... I always talk about how... No. You're going to put that rock star in that road case. Once you're off the stage, that rock star is going in the road case. And you, by the time we get to the hotel bar, you are the man. You are off stage with your hobbies, with your insecurities, with whatever dirty laundry you come with. You are that man. Groupies date the man off stage. Starfuckers, they only date the rock star. So they want to keep him the rock star the whole time because it satisfies their needs. And the rock star, as we all know, can get a little bitchy. They can get a little full-headed. They can get a little demanding. And after a starfucker shows up in your life like that, they can also demand for you to call me boss instead of your name, like they had for 20 years. And they don't care, because they will come after your husband right in front of your face. And when you're taking pictures of other women and your men, don't be angry because you took someone else's man under her fucking nose. And if you are taking pictures of groupies who are hitting on your man, or starfuckers that are hitting on your man, because groupies won't do that in front of you, we have some fucking decorum and boundaries. So we have some morals. We really do. But what we'll do, instead of screaming and fighting and being mad that I have to take your pictures with fans, we just put our finger over the lens. Smile and say bye. Heather Locklear taught me that when girls would hit on Tommy Lee in front of her. So we don't have so much manipulation, control, emotion, because you're still insecure. You got that rock star by cheating, by lying, by manipulating. So that's what you're bringing into the relationship. So of course it's going to be miserable. Of course it's going to be bipolar. Of course you're going to destroy relationships with him and, say, his kids, or, other band members or longtime crew members who are like family, because starfuckers don't see the family that we are out here on the road, whether you like it or not. They don't see the long-time friendships. They just see what their motivations are. And their motivations are sometimes calling tabloids to come take pictures of us in the Bahamas because I'm trying to be an influencer and get clout from my boyfriend's coattails. I'm trying to do this, and I will lie and make up stuff about myself like, oh, I'm in fashion and I was a journalist and lived in London. No, you don't, honey. Your fucking resume's out there on LinkedIn talking about how you were a gymnastics teacher, or owned a defunct gym that went out of business, got knocked up in high school in the same town you live in then and now, where you caught a vulnerable rocker who is a weak man and who is totally afraid to be alone. So the starfuckers can sometimes, if they see that, be careful, rockers, because they're coming for you. Most guys can see through that, but once in a while you get that narcissistic man who just doesn't see it. But narcissists, they're kind of starfuckers in their own right, too. But that's what groupies don't do that. I would step out of the way. Like, there's a lead singer that I would love to be with. I would love to, and he's going to be here next week. But I just know that my history, the groupie would just hate his fans. What if the rest of the band didn't like me, and I'm not going to come between him and his band. I'm not coming between him and his crew. I'm not coming between him and his family. I'm not going to do any of that because I have decency and moral, because I know it's not just about me. It's not about my agenda, because groupies don't need to be put on their rock star boyfriends' payrolls. They do not need to be validated by them. Groupies do not need to have an identity because of their rock star, because we have it all of our own. Rock stars are not our identities. They're our friends. They're our lovers. They're our hobby. They're what we do when we're not. Groupies are very bold about going about life and making their own businesses, doing their own things, being creative. And we're not afraid to live life and take chances like starfuckers are. Groupies don't need to be validated by the relationship with rock stars. Groupies don't need to be defined by the relationships with rock stars, and we don't need them to get a leg up in this world. I mean, yes, I did write a book about rock stars, but I was already scandalously infamous in tabloids. I was already part of rock and roll history. I decided to tell my story because too many other people were. That's a whole different ball game. I mean, I ran from the tabloids. Some lead singers' girlfriends are begging for them so that it can get her a leg up to give her a career, because she doesn't have anything else to do. She doesn't have anything else to define her, besides bratty kids and the bad reputation in the small fucking town she lives in. So Yeah, it's just there's such a difference between starfuckers and groupies. And starfuckers come in all shapes and sizes. Seriously, like they come in frenemies. They come in people that are trustworthy, that know how to build an ego. They come in people who know how to manipulate you and destroy your life enough to where you're stuck with them. Because that's what happens. You get involved with the rock star, she destroys your marriage. Then she destroys the relationship with the kids. You get the starfucker with the rock star, because my dad had a wife like that. Like this. Do you know what she ended up doing with him? Dropping him off at a fucking state home with nothing but the clothes on his back. Stealing money out of his account. She's still awaiting trial. We've talked about this. So, yeah, that's what starfuckers end up. It's just about them. It's just about greed. Then they end up angry and alone and wishing they coulda, shoulda, woulda, because they never did. And no matter how much they lie about it, no matter how much they try and destroy somebody else's reputation or marriage or relationship with other family members, kids, whatever, no matter how much they try, it's always going to explode in your face. And you can try and have your man come after me all you want. Not scared. Because there's certain things you have to prove. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the difference between a starfucker and a groupie, and my experiences with running into starfuckers in my personal life, how they affected it with their lives, with their negativity. It's like Jana in Seattle, who let Jerry Cantrell leave his soft serve chocolate ice cream on her. She was so a starfucker. I mean, this girl had Axl Rose tattooed on her arm and tried to go to AA to bed Steve Jones. And if you can't bed Steve Jones, honey, you are dead. No. Steve Jones bet anything. So there you guys go. Ladies who have been backstage, tell me your experiences about starfuckers down in that description. Tell me what you think. Tell me which kind you experienced, how you got your first experience. Rockers, guys, women, children. Well, not children. That was so bad. Back off of that. We don't go near that. But yeah, so, and the ones who manipulate, who try to get everything so it's, oh, you're my family, you're part of my world, you're my boyfriend, everything is about me, 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 you get the tattoo of my fucking, everybody knows tattoos are the kiss of death, but only starfuckers would get those. Keep in mind the letter A stands for Allison too. I'm never gonna look at that the same, will ya? And they don't haunt people. Starfuckers haunt people, and they let their, no, I'm not even going there. But where I'm going is thank you to everybody, as always, for getting to the end of the video. Thank you for always just supporting, for being so cool, for just having the kindest things to say to me, for really making my day and just uplifting, not just me, but everybody on this channel. The way we all interact with each other, it just really is so fucking amazing. I'm so glad that we don't have starfucker energy here, that we just have pure rock and roll love energy here. It's so amazing. And if you're just hanging out, you're just kind of lurking around, checking things out, go down in that description. Go down, fiddle about, hit that subscribe button, become part of the family, see what I'm talking about. Or even if you're not, get down in the comments. Be part of the conversation. Everybody's welcome to do what they want here. No hate, no hate, all love. Because that's rock and roll, baby. All right, so go down, hit that subscribe, hit the share. Let's grow the channel. I want my own plaque. I know I'm kind of greedy that way. But yeah, hit subscribe, hit the share button, hit my bells, and we'll see you next time on Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, my dears.